Most people believe success comes from working harder, being smarter, or getting lucky. But according to Stephen Covey, the biggest difference between highly effective people and everyone else has nothing to do with talent, luck, or intelligence. It comes down to habits. Small, consistent patterns in how you think, how you make decisions, and how you interact with other people. And once you understand those habits, something interesting starts to happen. You begin to see why some people keep moving forward in life, while others stay stuck in the same place for years. That idea turned The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People into one of the most influential personal development books ever written. In this video, we're going to break down the core ideas of the book in a simple way, so you can understand the 7 habits that shape effective people and how you can start applying them in your own life. But before we look at the habits themselves, Covey introduces one idea that everything else depends on. Most people try to change their results by changing what they do. They look for better strategies, new productivity tools, or motivational tricks. But Covey argues that real change doesn't start with behavior. It starts with how you see the world. He calls this your paradigm. A paradigm is basically the lens through which you interpret reality. It influences how you think, how you react, and how you make decisions. If your paradigm is flawed, then even the best techniques won't produce lasting results. For example, if someone believes that they are a victim of circumstances, they will constantly blame external factors for their problems. But if someone believes they are responsible for their own choices, they will look for ways to improve their situation. Two people can experience the exact same event, yet interpret it completely differently depending on their paradigm. That's why Covey says that real growth requires a paradigm shift. Instead of focusing only on what we do, we must focus on who we become. And that's where the 7 habits come in. The first 3 habits focus on personal independence. They help you move from being reactive and dependent on others to becoming self-directed and responsible. The first habit is be proactive. At first glance, this sounds simple, but it's one of the most powerful ideas in the entire book. Reactive people believe that their lives are controlled by external forces. Their mood depends on the weather. Their productivity depends on their boss. Their happiness depends on other people. Proactive people see things differently. They understand that while they cannot control everything that happens to them, they can always control how they respond. Instead of reacting emotionally, they pause and choose their response consciously. Covey explains this idea using something called the circle of concern and the circle of influence. Your circle of concern contains everything you worry about: the economy, politics, other people's behavior, global events. Your circle of influence contains the things you can actually affect: your actions, your mindset, your decisions. Reactive people spend most of their energy focusing on their circle of concern. They complain about things they cannot change. Proactive people focus on their circle of influence. They invest their time and energy into the things they can control. And over time, their influence grows. The second habit is begin with the end in mind. Covey asks readers to imagine attending their own funeral. Friends, family members, and colleagues are standing up one by one to talk about the kind of person you were. What would you want them to say about your character? What kind of legacy would you want to leave behind? This exercise forces you to think about your life from a long-term perspective. Highly effective people don't live randomly. They design their lives intentionally around clear values and meaningful goals. Covey explains this with a simple principle. Everything is created twice, first in the mind, then in reality. Before a building exists, an architect designs it. Before a company launches a product, someone imagines it. And in the same way, Before you build your life, you must first decide what kind of life you want to create. That's why Covey encourages people to write a personal mission statement, a clear description of the principles that guide your decisions. When you know what truly matters to you, it becomes much easier to make choices that align with your values. The third habit is put first things first. Once you know your values and long-term goals, the next challenge is organizing your time around them. Most people manage their lives based on urgency. They respond to emails, notifications, and problems the moment they appear. But urgent tasks are not always important. Covey divides activities into 4 categories. Some tasks are urgent and important. These are crises and deadlines. Some tasks are important but not urgent. These include planning, learning, building relationships, and improving your health. Some tasks are urgent but not important. These are interruptions and other people's priorities. And some tasks are neither urgent nor important. These are distractions that consume time without creating value. Highly effective people focus most of their energy on the second category, important but not urgent activities. These are the things that create long-term progress. Exercise improves your health over time. Learning expands your knowledge. Planning reduces future stress. The problem is that because these activities are not urgent, people often ignore them until they eventually become urgent. The next 3 habits focus on how we interact with other people. Habit 4 is think win-win. Many people approach life with a competitive mindset. If one person wins, someone else must lose. But Covey argues that the most effective relationships are based on mutual benefit. Win-win thinking means looking for solutions where both sides gain value. In business negotiations, this means agreements where both parties benefit. In relationships, it means respecting the needs and perspectives of others. This mindset creates trust, cooperation, and long-term partnerships. Habit 5 is seek first to understand, then to be understood. Most people listen with the intention of replying. While someone else is speaking, they're already preparing their response. But effective communication requires something deeper. Covey calls this empathic listening. Instead of immediately offering advice or judgment, you try to truly understand the other person's perspective. You listen not only to their words, but also to the emotions behind them. When people feel understood, they become far more open to hearing your ideas as well. This habit can transform conversations, leadership, and relationships. Habit 6 is synergize. Synergy means that when people collaborate effectively, the result can be greater than the sum of individual efforts. Different perspectives become strengths instead of obstacles. When people respect differences and work together creatively, new solutions emerge. This principle explains why diverse teams often outperform individuals working alone. Finally, the 7th habit is sharpen the saw. Imagine trying to cut down a tree with a dull saw. You could keep pushing harder and harder, but progress would remain slow. Or you could stop for a moment, sharpen the saw, and then work far more effectively. Sharpening the saw means investing time in renewal. Covey describes 4 areas that need regular attention: your physical health through exercise, nutrition, and rest; your mental development through learning and reflection; your social and emotional well-being through meaningful relationships; and your sense of purpose through values and personal growth. Highly effective people understand that long-term success requires balance. They regularly step back, recharge, and invest in themselves. When you look at these 7 habits together, you start to see a clear progression. First, you take responsibility for your own life. Then you clarify your values and priorities. Then you learn how to work effectively with others. And finally, you maintain the systems that allow you to keep growing over time. The power of this book is not in one single idea. It's in how the principles reinforce each other. Being proactive gives you control over your choices. Beginning with the end in mind gives your life direction. Putting first things first turns that direction into daily action. Thinking win-win builds stronger relationships. Seeking to understand improves communication. Synergy unlocks collective creativity, and sharpening the saw ensures continuous improvement. Millions of people have applied these habits to improve their careers, relationships, and personal lives. But the real value of these ideas only appears when they are practiced consistently. You don't need to master all 7 habits at once. Start with one. Become more proactive. Clarify your long-term vision. Protect time for what truly matters. Over time, small shifts in behavior create massive changes in results. And that is the core message of the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. If you want to learn the most powerful ideas from the world's best books, subscribe to Books in Minutes and start learning faster.